The internet is on fire again, and this time it's not just celebrity gossip. What started as whispers in comment sections, subtle rumors passed along group chats and fan forums, has now spiraled into a full-blown legal battle that has captured the attention of millions. Tiny Harris, one of Atlanta's most recognized voices in the music industry, has officially filed a $10 million lawsuit. The complaint names Kandi Burruss and T.I., the very people she once trusted, once called friends. When news of the lawsuit broke, the reaction was instantaneous. Social media erupted, hashtags trended, and news outlets scrambled to get details. What had once been dismissed as a rumor, a short, suspiciously edited clip, was now a serious legal matter, and the implications reached far beyond the confines of Atlanta. This wasn't just a story about heartbreak. It was about betrayal, revenge, and the cost of being caught in the crosshairs of the viral machine. The scandal had transformed into something far darker than anyone could have anticipated. People had called the video fake. Some said it was a misunderstanding, a poorly edited clip designed to provoke clicks and stir attention. Others dismissed it as another celebrity rumor destined to fade into obscurity. But as leaked court documents, private messages, and insider testimonies began surfacing, a darker, more complicated picture emerged. Tiny wasn't just suing over gossip. She was suing over the destruction of her reputation, her peace of mind, and the betrayal of those she once trusted implicitly. For months, fans and online commentators debated, theorized, and created their own versions of what had happened. But now, the lawsuit had transformed speculation into a reality that could not be ignored. The legal filings painted a story of emotional distress, reputational damage, and malicious defamation, with Tiny at the center, demanding accountability from the very people she had welcomed into her home, into her life, and into her trust. Tiny sat silently, her thoughts heavy, as her lawyer outlined the filing strategy. The moment the documents became public, there was no going back. She had spent countless nights replaying that 30-second clip over and over, trying to reconcile how a single moment could be twisted so thoroughly, how a private betrayal could become a public spectacle. Every comment, every retweet, every meme had felt like a personal attack. The online world didn't know the truth. They didn't know how many nights she had cried alone in her apartment, wondering how the people she loved could appear so callous, so reckless on video. And yet, despite the emotional turmoil, she had made her choice. She would fight, not just for herself, but for justice, for the principle that a person's truth should not be obliterated by lies amplified across the internet. Meanwhile, Kandi Burruss was feeling the full weight of the viral backlash. Comments burned like acid across her screen. Homewrecker, fake friend, karma's coming. Her husband tried to console her, but words felt hollow. The world had already passed judgment, and she was trapped between responding and staying silent. Any statement could be twisted, weaponized, or misrepresented, and every day spent in the public eye only deepened the storm. Kandi's PR team worked frantically behind the scenes, crafting messages, controlling narratives, and attempting to manage a crisis that seemed to grow exponentially with each passing hour. But nothing could stop the momentum. Hashtags like Tiny versus Kandi and Justice for Tiny were trending, each one representing millions of opinions, millions of people picking sides, debating motives, and passing verdicts online, long before the courts could intervene. T.I., meanwhile, tried to avoid the chaos, but the cameras found him wherever he went. Questions rained down in torrents. Is Kandi really pregnant with your baby? Are you responsible for this scandal? He didn't flinch. He didn't answer. Every step he took seemed to be a performance under the harsh scrutiny of public fascination. The absence of response only fueled speculation, feeding the wildfire of rumors and creating new narratives in real time. For T.I., silence was no refuge. It was a weapon turned against him, a tool for others to shape the story as they saw fit. And while the public debated his guilt or innocence, the truth remained locked behind private conversations, inside court filings, and in memories that only he and a select few could access. Inside a quiet office downtown, Tiny's lawyer prepared the press release. "This isn't gossip," he said to his assistant. "This is accountability." Yet everyone knew that the moment the papers hit the internet, accountability would be drowned out by drama. People would not read the filings to understand. They would read them to react. They would want emotion, conflict, and spectacle. Every gesture, every comment, every expression captured in viral clips would be dissected and interpreted, often inaccurately, and the truth would become secondary to entertainment. And yet, despite the chaos, Tiny pressed forward, determined to reclaim her story, her dignity, and her voice in the face of overwhelming public scrutiny. By evening, every movement was analyzed. Tiny's dark glasses, her measured pace, her silence, all became content for social media. Opinions were drawn, memes were made, and theories were formed with lightning speed. Was she broken? Was she strong? Was this for attention, or was it genuine anger and grief? Nobody knew, but everyone commented. The truth had been obscured by the very nature of reality. Tiny whispered to herself as she sat in the car, "You asked for this, now you finish it." Outside, cameras captured her quiet defiance, every flash a reminder that the world was watching, waiting, and judging. Kandi's world felt smaller and darker with each scroll. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she whispered. Every message on her phone seemed designed to tear her apart. The internet had chosen its villains and its victims, and Kandi found herself painted as the antagonist, even when the reality was far more complicated. Her husband's reassurances fell flat, the distance between public perception and private truth growing wider by the second. Meanwhile, T.I.'s attempts to navigate the storm in silence only added layers of mystery, fueling speculation and conspiracy theories across platforms where nuance and context no longer mattered. By midnight, the story had become entertainment. Clips, compilations, and alleged leaks filled feeds with chaos. True or false, it no longer mattered. Every share, every comment, every reaction amplified the spectacle, and the personal cost to those involved was almost invisible amid the online frenzy. Tiny, Kandi, and T.I. were no longer just individuals. They had become symbols in a narrative shaped by thousands of strangers, each with their own opinion, their own biases, their own desire to witness drama unfold. What started as a 30-second clip had grown into a story about power, influence, and the way modern culture consumes humiliation as entertainment. Morning arrived with heavy gray skies mirroring the tension that gripped the city. The lawsuit had been officially filed, and copies of court documents were everywhere. Every social media account, every gossip blog, every news outlet claimed to have exclusive updates. Users dissected filings like detectives examining a crime scene, highlighting passages in yellow, red, and neon. Everyone had an opinion, and most of them were loud, aggressive, and decisive. The internet had already passed judgment before any courtroom had even opened its doors. Tiny sat quietly, letting the morning light creep across her kitchen. Her lawyer's voice echoed from the phone on speaker, reminding her to wait until after the next hearing before going public. But Tiny had had enough of silence. "They've told my story long enough," she said softly. "Maybe it's time I tell it myself." Across town, T.I. scrolled endlessly through accusations, unable to contain his frustration. Finally, he posted a single line, "Y'all don't know half the truth." Within minutes, screenshots exploded across platforms, feeding the viral machine further. Kandi saw it too, fatigue etched into her face. She wanted to speak, but the public had already formed their narrative, and any explanation would be drowned in the noise. By afternoon, another alleged leak surfaced, an audio clip from one of T.I.'s studio sessions. News outlets called it a smoking gun, claiming it exposed secrets that would destroy reputations. Tiny had not released it. Her team had no idea where it came from, and yet the online world treated it as fact. Social media frenzy turned personal trauma into a game, every click, view, and share escalating the stakes. The lawsuit had transcended the courtroom. It was now a reflection of society's obsession with destruction, spectacle, and the intimate details of lives not their own. By evening, Tiny arrived at the courthouse to a crowd of supporters and media shouting questions. Cameras flashed incessantly. The legal team moved swiftly, shielding her from the press. Inside, the session was quiet but tense. No verdicts were announced, no decisions made. Yet outside, the silence became a cacophony as reporters rushed to post updates and fans filled in gaps with their own narratives. It was no longer about justice. It was about trending, about clicks, about who could control the story in an age where truth was optional and drama was mandatory. Late at night, Tiny sat in her studio, the weight of the case pressing on her shoulders. Her name printed at the top of the legal documents, Plaintiff Tamika Tiny Harris, served as a reminder that the story was now hers to shape.
Below it were the names of those she had never imagined seeing across the courtroom, the names of people she once trusted implicitly. She whispered to herself, "I didn't start this, but I'll finish it." Outside, rain tapped against windows like distant applause, a soundtrack to the chaos that had taken over their lives.
However, for years, Tiny, T.I., and Kandi Burruss had been perceived as untouchable, a tight-knit circle of music icons who shared success, laughter, and influence, representing the epitome of Atlanta fame. They performed on stages that felt like thrones, laughed in interviews that seemed effortless, and built an empire that fans admired from afar. To the public, their world was flawless. But beneath the bright lights, the smiles, and the glamorous appearances, darkness was quietly coiling. Betrayal, manipulation, and secrets so heavy that no one dared speak of them openly festered behind closed doors. And now, Tiny was no longer willing to remain silent. She had decided to take matters into her own hands, stepping into a courtroom with a lawsuit that threatened to expose years of hidden truths. The claims were severe: emotional abuse, calculated manipulation, and a betrayal that had stolen not just trust, but the essence of her youth. But what made this case more explosive wasn't just the allegations themselves. According to insiders, this lawsuit could uncover a tangled web of evidence, including old recordings that had never seen the light of day, hidden files that hinted at business deception, fabricated leaks that seemed designed to manipulate the public, and even AI-generated tapes that blurred the line between reality and fiction. In a world where every narrative could be controlled, every truth could be questioned, and every leak could be weaponized, no one knew what was genuine and what was part of a carefully staged illusion. And in this high-stakes drama, someone, or multiple people, were about to lose everything they had built. The courtroom was heavy with anticipation, a silence so thick it could be felt in the bones. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and every seat was filled with those desperate to witness a moment no one thought they would ever see. Tiny Harris, walking in with a composed exterior that masked the storm inside her. Her heels clicked against the polished marble floor with a slow, deliberate rhythm, echoing like the ticking of a clock, counting down to an emotional explosion. She didn't glance at anyone, not even T.I., who sat a mere few feet away, his jaw tight and his expression unreadable. Across the room, Kandi Burruss sat rigidly, her face a mask of neutrality, but her eyes betrayed her true emotions. Fear, regret, and perhaps even guilt lingered there in subtle flashes. This wasn't gossip anymore. This was reality. For years, people had speculated about the hidden dynamics behind the glamorous facade, the silent power plays, the whispered betrayals hinted at in lyrics and interviews, and the subtle manipulation that no one could quite name. But today, those whispers had evolved into a storm. Tiny wasn't here to perform or explain. She wasn't here to placate the public or soften her words for the camera. She was here to fight. She was suing T.I. and Kandi Burruss for manipulation that was both emotional and financial, claiming that their calculated control had robbed her of 2 decades of her life, her autonomy, and her trust. The media quickly descended on the story like vultures. Headlines screamed in bold letters, echoing Tiny's accusation. "Tiny Harris sues T.I. and Kandi Burruss. You stole 20 years of my life." Hashtags flooded social media. Hashtag justice for Tiny. Hashtag Team T.I. Hashtag Kandi Speaks. Every influencer, blogger, and commentator had an opinion. Yet, amidst the noise, no one truly knew the full story. Reality and perception blurred in real time as millions of eyes consumed each detail and debated its meaning. Inside the courtroom, the tension was palpable. The judge's gavel slammed down once, attempting to impose order, but the energy refused to settle.
Tiny's lawyer rose, his voice sharp but controlled, addressing the room with precision. "Your Honor, my client gave everything, her loyalty, her career, her name, to people she believed were family. What she received in return was deception." Kandi shifted uncomfortably in her seat, nails digging into her palms as she avoided Tiny's gaze, feeling the relentless weight of her scrutiny. T.I. remained stoic, his hands clasped in front of him, attempting to project calm, yet the tension in his eyes betrayed the inner turmoil he struggled to conceal. And then Tiny spoke. Her voice was calm, measured, but it carried the force of conviction throughout every corner of the courtroom. "I trusted both of them. I believed in what we built together, and I watched as they used that trust against me. Every deal, every decision, every moment, I was the one they controlled. They made me believe it was love, but it was business. It was all business." Her words landed like blows, silencing the room. Even reporters stopped typing, captivated by the gravity of the moment. Outside, the public debate raged on. Fans argued in threads and comment sections, memes spread across social media, and gossip channels dissected every word. Some dismissed Tiny's claims as drama or revenge disguised as justice. Others insisted that this was long overdue, a woman finally reclaiming her voice after decades of sacrificing her own reputation for others.
But behind the public spectacle, something far darker was unfolding. An anonymous message arrived in a journalist's inbox that very morning, a voice memo time-stamped 3 days before the lawsuit. A man's voice, deep, calm, familiar, warned, "Don't let her find out. Once this goes public, it's over for all of us." The journalist hesitated, then played the clip again. The voice sounded eerily like T.I.'s. Within an hour, it was sent to a gossip site and leaked to millions. The audio's authenticity remained uncertain. Distorted, edited, and punctuated by cuts, it was timed with unnerving precision, designed to maximize shock and doubt. Inside the courtroom, T.I.'s lawyer rose with a controlled yet frustrated tone. "These so-called recordings are nothing more than doctored fabrications meant to destroy my client's name. We will not stand for this circus." Tiny remained composed. "You can call it a circus," she said softly, "but I lived in it for 20 years. Kandi finally broke her silence. "Tiny, you know that's not true. You were part of every deal, every plan. We built this together." Tiny turned to her, eyes cold and unyielding. "You built it on lies, Kandi, and you know it." Gasps filled the room, and the internet frenzy continued outside, with influencers and gossip pages dissecting every second of the leaked audio. Some insisted it was fake, others swore they had proof of T.I.'s manipulation over the years. The digital world had become its own courtroom, where every opinion carried weight. Tiny's lawyer played an old clip of T.I. in an interview, laughing confidently as he said, "People always think they know the truth, but the truth is what we decide it is." Back then, the audience had clapped. Now, the same words sounded more like a confession. Kandi's phone buzzed on the defense table. A message flashed, "You shouldn't have said anything." No sender, no number, just fear condensed into a few digital words. Her hands trembled as she locked the screen, the weight of exposure settling in. During recess, Tiny sat silently with her lawyer, staring ahead as strategy whispered in her ear. But she wasn't listening. She was remembering everything she had once believed in, the man she loved, the friend she trusted, the empire they had built together. All of it was now collapsing under the weight of a single lawsuit, a single accusation that threatened to undo decades of loyalty and public perception. Reporters swarmed the hallways, microphones thrust in her face, questions fired like bullets. She didn't answer. Only one thing left her lips. "I'm not looking for revenge. I'm looking for the truth." And the truth, it seemed, was buried beneath layers of deception, manipulation, and betrayal. Later that night, a grainy, encrypted video surfaced online. 2 shadowed figures spoke in whispers. "If this goes public, we all go down. Don't worry, I've already arranged the backup plan."
Experts suggested it could be AI-generated, a deepfake meant to manipulate perception and create chaos. Now the story had escalated from scandal to psychological warfare, a battle between truth and deception, emotion and control. Tiny had her evidence, T.I. had his influence, and Kandi, she held secrets that no one else did. The world watched, riveted, as three people who once stood united began tearing each other apart in real time. Millions of eyes glued to screens, millions of opinions shaping the narrative. And as the cameras followed them into court the following morning, one thing was clear. This wasn't about justice anymore. It was about survival. The next morning began with sirens, flashing cameras, and the weight of every unspoken secret. Tiny arrived in a dark SUV, her face partially hidden behind sunglasses, the exhaustion evident in her slow movements. This wasn't just a legal battle anymore. She was fighting for her name, her truth, her sanity. Reporters screamed questions as security pushed them back. She whispered something to her lawyer before entering the courthouse, doors that now felt less like a building and more like a portal into another, more dangerous world. Inside, the atmosphere was heavier than before. Kandi was seated, scrolling through her phone, her face pale. T.I. sat at the far end, flanked by his team, his usual swagger gone, replaced by an almost desperate effort to maintain composure. The judge entered. The courtroom rose, and the storm began anew. Tiny's lawyer wasted no time. "Your Honor, we have obtained new evidence," he announced, pulling out a flash drive, the type that has ended careers and destroyed reputations. This video was leaked online last night. While we don't know the original source, it is clearly relevant to this case. The lights dimmed, the screen flickered to life, revealing two shadowed figures, their voices distorted yet chillingly clear.
The female voice said, "If she files, we're done." The male replied, "She won't. She doesn't have the courage." The female shot back, "You don't know her like I do. She's stronger now. She's angry." The male concluded, "Then we do it first." The video ended abruptly. Silence swallowed the room. Kandi leaned toward her attorney, whispering, "That's not me. That's not my voice." T.I., however, didn't flinch. He wasn't shocked. He wasn't confused. He was calculating. Across the city, Kandi stared out her window, the storm reflecting her inner turmoil. T.I. replayed viral clips obsessively, trying to convince himself that the distorted versions of reality weren't true. But the world didn't care about the nuances. Every feed, every trending post, every viral tweet only reinforced the spectacle. The scandal had grown beyond their control, beyond truth, beyond reason. Tiny's lawsuit had become a mirror for society's obsession with humiliation, exposure, and destruction. Now the question remains, who do you believe? Was Tiny standing up for herself, demanding accountability? Or was this lawsuit fueled by pain and revenge? Did Kandi betray her, or is she a victim of a viral storm beyond her control? And T.I., villain, bystander, or pawn in a story he never wanted to be a part of? Every day brings new leaks, new clips, and new theories, but the truth remains elusive. One viral post can destroy a career. One rumor can end a friendship. One lie, repeated loudly enough, can start to feel like reality. Before you scroll to the next scandal, ask yourself, what if this happened to you? Would anyone pause to consider the truth? Or would the spectacle consume everything?